center. So eventually once we're done, and we'll sell this one as well. But for the time being, it's our visitor center so we can sort of showcase what we've done.
But do y'all have any binding already?
We've had interest. Nothing's gone through quite yet.
Oh,
But,
it's just the 3, right?
there's actually going to be 5 single-family homes. I'll tell you about it. It's Global Green USA is the name of the organization. We're an environmental nonprofit, and we're based out of Santa Monica, California. That's where the headquarters are. We also have an office in Washington, D.C., in New York, and here. We came in right after the storm in order to help individuals rebuild the city in a more sustainable way.
And what's your name?
John Dorsey.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to get a tour of this now.
Sorry.
Dorsey.
Yes. So one of the first things that we did when we came here is we hosted this design competition, which is the result of this Holy Cross project. Brad Pitt was originally with us on hosting this. He was our celebrity sponsor of sorts. So we gathered about 150 designs or so internationally. And then we narrowed those down. We formed a board of not only individuals that were very prominent within the green building and knew about exactly the technologies that would be beneficial to this area, but also of individuals within this neighborhood. Because we wanted to ensure that the project would actually be integrated into the needs and wants of the residents. So
this kind of got the jumping off point for Brad Pitt to start thinking about doing it on a big scale.
Exactly. So he was with us originally, and he was helping to host this design competition, and I think he got inspired by what he saw, and he was like, I'd like to do this on a larger scale. So that's when he formed the Make It Right Foundation. But as far as
you guys affiliated with that?
No, we're actually not.
Okay.
We decided just to stay solely on the Holy Cross project. So it's great going along with what is beneficial for the residents in our research center, this community center that we're going to have as well. It's going to have a grocery store and a bank teller, which are both things that have not really returned to this neighborhood since the storm. So we're really excited about that. Groceries, it's going to be along that street right there, along
the
Douglas
front,
Street.
okay.
Yeah. We're still getting all the funding figured out, but it's going to be a really cool thing once we get it done. Another great thing about that research center is it's going to have backup power. So the other homes are actually net metered, which means that we're directly connected to the grid itself. And I can explain that in a second, but let me explain the research center. So that one's going to have battery backup, and it's going to have 2 weeks of what we call passive survivability. So it's going to have battery backup for 2 weeks, which means that if a storm does come in, God forbid, it'll provide a respite for individuals if they need to come in, if they have medicines that need to refrigerate, they need to get out of the sun, because hurricane season is quite warm. And also, this is our first foray into building.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of experimentation that we had to do. There was a lot of research put behind this building. But there's a difference between doing the research and actually building it.
Yeah.
So once we actually started building it, we realized that things had to be done a different
It
way.
seems like it'd be expensive to build.
Yeah, and you know what? The first house was the most expensive just because that was our first foray, as I said. Right, and then the other 2 homes were a lot quicker and a lot cheaper because time is money, especially when you're building a home. But that's what we wanted to do, is we wanted to build homes that were efficient and sustainable, but also affordable. And that's what we did with the other 2 homes. This one is more of a visitor center. It's exactly what you can do within green buildings. So we have a lot of things in this home that are not in the other homes. For instance, for this one, we have a ground source heat pump, which provides our heating and cooling, which is a really cool system. Basically, it's a closed-loop system that goes underground. It's a little bit different than the normal geothermal, because the normal geothermal goes down into the ground, and it goes very deep, about 40 feet or so, or even further. But because of the fact that we're so close to the levee, we didn't want to compromise any of the land.
So what's it called, below ground?
It's ground source heat pump, is what it's called. And it basically uses the ground as a heat sink and takes heat away or puts heat in, and then it brings it up into the home and blows air on it. We also have a green roof, which I'll take you up to in this house, which we don't have in the other 2 homes. This one's a little bit larger. It's 1386. The other 2 are 1100. We also have a 1,000-gallon partially submerged cistern that we have underneath the back deck over there, where we're harvesting rainwater. Unfortunately, right now in Louisiana, it's illegal to use that water from outdoor inside.
Really?
It's something that's been on the books since the time of yellow fever, because that stagnant water is how mosquitoes reproduce. So they're afraid of people getting sick, and they just don't really want to have that liability. So we're working as Global Green to try and change this policy because it seems a little bit ridiculous that.
It's actually illegal in Philadelphia to have a rain barrel.
People have the rain barrels.
I know, it's not enforced.
Right.
Right,
Can't
right.
use it for bathing or something.
But it's just, it's like that. It's one of those old rules.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was meant originally to provide a safe environment, but
Right.
it's actually sort of a crutch. But yeah, so we have it hooked up to the house, and once we get to go ahead, we can flush our toilets with it. Because about 50% of your water use is actually from your toilets, and there's no need to tap that to flush that purified tap water that you can normally drink, and then bring it back to the sewage water board for them to retreat. So we're doing that, which is quite fantastic.
And that's a gray water standard within the LEED certification?
It's different than gray water. Gray water is actually water that's being used within the home and then reclaimed and then re-cleaned, re-purified, and then brought into the home. This is rainwater
Do
collection.
you do any of that?
We don't do gray water collection.
No gray water, okay. All right.
No, just the rainwater. And it is legal to actually use it for irrigation if it's directly attached to the irrigation system. There's no external hoses that can be there because they're afraid people will drink it. So the site selection is actually quite fantastic. The way that we oriented the home was very, we did it on purpose. So we have an east to west axis. We did that so that when the sun rises and sets, the smallest portions of the home are going to get that heat gain that you get from the sun. It's also beneficial for our solar voltaic panels that we have on the roof because we get the direct sunlight on the south-facing facade of this building. So we have it on a 30-degree pitch on the roof because that's the optimal pitch that you can get for solar panels, so you get great sun exposure both in the winter that normally would have gone to a landfill, but also the fact that it's a cypress. So if water does come into this house, we hope it never will again. It's not going to buckle, it's not going to warp. Also for that reason, we have paperless sheetrock on the bottom floor, so that mold won't grow on that sheetrock. Another great aspect of this home is the insulation itself. It's called rigid foam board, and it's actually on the outside of the building itself. Normally in a home, you have insulation in between those wooden beams, and whenever you have that wooden beam is a weak point in that system. So you want to have a continuous thermal barrier, especially if you have a controlled system within the house, so that nothing gets out. And as you can see, we don't have anything to do that because of that continuous thermal barrier. Oftentimes in homes, you don't have a well-insulated attic. So you have this heated space above your home that's either sucking out the air conditioning or bringing down heat. And so we decided not to have the attic so that we could counteract any of those effects. And then it's also great for the daylighting. So we have even more windows on that north side where you get that diffuse sunlight. Yeah, but so they came in and they provided all of the decorations, and they're all recycled or recyclable materials. So they're all sustainable in some sort of fashion. And actually downstairs I'll show you the rugs are actually made from banana leaves.
Do you know how long this area that we're in was underwater? Or
are you more familiar in that? I don't know how long it was underwater over here.
I know when I got back, it was late in September, the end of September, when I came back at the house, the water was still there. So about a month.
This is the green roof right here. As you probably know, New Orleans is quite a wet city, so we get a lot of rain, especially in the summer months. This counteracts that rainfall because oftentimes in normal communities you have all these non-porous surfaces. So that water that would normally be absorbed into the earth is now getting pushed into cement, and it's just staying there. So what we did is we have a green roof so that it sucks up that water and it utilizes it on the spot. The best way to do that is to have a green roof or to have as little of those non-porous surfaces as possible. So for your driveway even, you can just have those two pavers instead of having it fully paved, so that water will stay on the site. It also is great because it combats something called urban heat island effect, which happens oftentimes in larger cities where you have a lot of cement and glass and not a lot of vegetation. And what it does is it absorbs that natural heat that is coming from the sun and it brings it into the ground, and it naturally lets that out during the day as opposed to just reflecting it out into the ambient temperature and raising that ambient temperature by 6 to 7 degrees.